here. Welcome, Wendy Lee. Welcome back. Welcome back for another show of Money Moves. We got some great stuff we're going to be talking about today. I've got kids, you've got kids. I think a lot of people that listen to us have kids as well. And so one of the things we're going to be talking about are the top 3 things that you should be doing or teaching your kids about money so they don't repeat the cycle and the struggles that you went through. So we're going to get started here in about 30 seconds. All right, we're back and ready to roll. So hopefully you're watching. If you're not watching live, be sure to share this video with friends. Make sure you like and subscribe. Hit those buttons below. That helps us with our algorithms, whatever the hell that is out in cyberspace, right? Making things happen, trying to educate people about money. That's what we're all about. So Wendy, it's always exciting to be here with you. And
yes, you too.
Today we're talking about, making money and showing kids how to make money, right?
Yeah.
Not only make it, but some of the things you should teach them about it. So
what to do with it, right? I have a couple kids.
I've heard that. What do you got? Like 1, 2,
7.
7 kids. Yeah. So you're an overachiever. So what to be expected? I've got 3. So, we've got 3 awesome kids, and we've taught them about money because I didn't want them to go through the same stuff that I went through coming up, not knowing. And so that's what you and I were talking about last week.
Yeah.
It's like, that would be an awesome topic for our show today, is teaching kids the basics of money, right? And there's 3 main things that you should teach them. And that's what we're actually going to talk about today. Number 1 is the value of money, right? I think a lot of people you see, just don't understand the value of money, the value of hard work and things like that. Now, I do want to preface this with, we're going to be talking about some of the stuff, Wendy and I kind of talked beforehand about some of the stuff that we've done with our kids to kind of help them understand money and things like that. But we're not teaching you how to raise your kids. So for any Karens out there, please just keep that to yourself. And, I just got to call it out there. I don't want to get a bunch of, hate on my social media when I'm trying to help people here. So number 1 is going to be the value of money. Number 2 is going to be goal setting with your money, right? Having money goals. And you can start that out even at a young age. And then number 3 is managing that money. How do I get from understanding what the value is? I set some goals. How can I get there? And that's where that whole managing the money comes. So let's kind of get into it. So, start us off. Wendy, what do you think about teaching kids the value of money? How do you do that? How do you accomplish that?
Right. Well, the schools don't do it, so it's our job as parents, right? We actually, my husband and I had a conversation literally yesterday. He's like, Wendy, I think we need to sit the kids down and talk to them about inflation, because, they just sometimes have in their mind, like, we go to the grocery store and it's like, throw whatever you want in the cart.
Mm-hmm.
And grocery prices are going way up.
Crazy.
Yeah. Crazy. And so he's like, I think we should talk to them about that. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And so to your point, like the value of money, I think, it's easy to just spend, and, we want to give our kids the world, right? And to be able to give them different things. But honestly, a big shift happened for me traveling to Africa. So we traveled to Africa, and when seeing like just the way people live and what the value of an American dollar to them was and how powerful that was, that shifted my mindset, because when I came back to the US and we were buying shoes for my son, cleats for his baseball, I was looking at the price and I looked it up on Amazon. I'm like, oh, it's like $15 cheaper on Amazon. Well, my kid, instant gratification. He's like, but I want them now, not in 2 days, right? And I'm like, but that's $15. And I calculated it out times 7,500. That's how many leones that is, which is the Sierra Leone dollar. Yeah. And I'm like, that could feed people for a month. I'm like, no, we're not, but that for me was a shift in my understanding the value of a dollar, right? And a good lesson for my kids. But I think it's important to teach them the work that goes behind earning the dollar too.
Yeah.
It's not just like what it can buy, but what you have to do to earn it. Like, we grew up with the money doesn't grow on trees. Well, so where do we get it, right? There's a missing piece to that. So where do we get it and how is it valued? And so I teach my kids too, like the way I live is, I only spend half of what I make
Mm-hmm.
is only only half of what I make is mine, right? To like live my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I'll say, oh, they're like, oh, it's only $4. I'm like, I have to make 8 to be able to pay for that,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So that's kind of like our beginning talks with the younger kids. I didn't do a great job with the older kids of explaining the value of money.
Well, and that's the problem, right? I mean, you and I went to school. We weren't taught this stuff. Our parents the same way. Our grandparents the same way. And so that lesson never really gets taught at school. So because we also don't know it at home, we don't teach that stuff to our kids too. And so it's critical that you teach them the value of money. And I've had conversations with parents about allowance versus no allowance. I grew up with an allowance until I screwed up and then got cut off by the household government, right? But when I came, we started having our kids and started teaching them about money and things like that. One of the things we had was like everybody contributes to the household, right? So
Yeah.
you don't have jobs, so you're going to contribute X, Y, Z. But we didn't give them an allowance per se. But what we did do is give them plenty of opportunities to make money. And even at a young age. So we had a list that we made out of different chores that they could do to help mom and dad and things like that, and how much cash they would pay. And then we ran into a situation where, okay, nobody carries cash anymore. And again, that instant gratification, they want the money. So what we did, we came up with this cool little concept. I'm like, okay, well, in games, you use your own money, right? And Monopoly, things like that. So we came up with Cleaver Cash. And we had denominations of 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s. And so what we would do is, and we had fun with it. We put, our different pictures. We had the dog's picture on the $10 bill and stuff like that. And, did it up right and had a really good time with it. And so whenever they, did extra jobs or whatever, we would just hand them Cleaver Cash. That way they had that instant gratification you were talking about. And I remember the very first conversation with my oldest and my daughter. I mean, I think he was like, I don't know, 6 and she was 4. And so we rolled this out and I handed it to them like, hey, you got, $20 in Cleaver Cash. And they're like, Dad, I can't take this into a store. Nobody's going to take this money. And so what we would do is when we would go to the stores or whatever, they would tell me, okay, Dad, I've got $25 in Cleaver Cash. We would go ahead and buy the item for them, but they had to spend their money to buy it. And then when we got home, they would pay me back in Cleaver Cash. That way they were learning to keep track of their money, know how much they had. And it's a great idea. And it really, I mean, it was just kind of dumb luck that we kind of came up with that. But it really worked out well and taught them.
You have a cool last name for it too.
Well, I do. You could be Wendy Bucks or something like that. Something cool like that. I mean, it's different things that you could do. Or, but it's something that really kind of taught them the whole transactional piece, and it wasn't just them coming at me. Because we buy them clothes, we buy them gifts and things like that. But anything extra, we made them buy it themselves. I remember probably going back about whenever the PS4 came out, right? Mm-hmm. Not the 5, but the 4. My son had just gotten an Xbox like a year, maybe 2 prior, and he wanted the PS4. And I looked at him like, we're still rocking. I still play the Xbox. And it's like, I'm not buying you another game. I said, no, we're not doing that. You want it, you buy it. And so that's what he did. And it's amazing, when they were coming up, they bought their little iPods and stuff like that. And they take so much better care of it too, because they know what it took to earn, going back to what you were saying, earning that money. They got to earn it. Right. And it's like, hey, well, I'm not just paying you to pay you. But that's the challenge. So many parents just find it easier. Hey, I'm just going to give my kids everything I want. I don't want them to struggle like I did. But what you're doing is you're creating a bigger problem down the road because they don't get that. Right. Yeah. So that's some of the things. And you want to teach them how to save it, accumulate it. Right. And, there's little things you can use with banks and stuff that teach them about the X, Y, or Z. And one of the baseline lessons, you save 50% of your money. That's huge. Okay. Most people aren't even saving 5. You want to teach your kids to save 20% of their cash, at least. Okay. 10% doesn't cut it anymore, folks. Mm-hmm. That's what you're thinking that's going to get you there. It's not. 20% is kind of that minimum and if you teach them young, then all of a sudden they become savers. My kids, each of their savings accounts have more money than a lot of the clients I deal with in it, which is scary. Not that they have huge sums, but the average person out there can't even cover $1,000 expense for most people, and that's like 67%. So if you teach them that young, folks, they're not going to have to deal with that problem. So, and then going back, do you guys play any games, any money games or anything like that? Like Monopoly? Have you ever done that?
Yeah, my kids love Monopoly. Yeah, we do play Monopoly. That's about it, though. You talked about a different game that I've never heard of.
Yeah, so there's Monopoly, which is great, right? And you teach them about the hotels and all that stuff. There's Life, the game of life, which
Right.
is great because you have families and expenses and stuff like that. It's a fun way to learn about money. But a game that Robert Kiyosaki came out with, and this is going back, man, 20 plus years. It's called Cash Flow. There's Cash Flow 101 and Cash Flow, I think it's 202. But the Cash Flow 101 is an amazing game. Think of Monopoly and Life combined on steroids. And what it does is it teaches you about money, but it also teaches you about getting out of the rat race, diversifying your income. I mean, it takes it to a whole new level. And I mean, I've got pictures of my youngest, he's 16 now, when he was like 4 years old playing this game. And of course we had to help him and stuff like that. But it's just an amazing, amazing game. You can pick it up on eBay. You can go to, I think, Robert Kiyosaki and cashflow.com maybe. But the game is called Cash Flow. I'll put a link in it in the
Comments.
Whatever. Thank you. Comments. So you can, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. But it's a great, great game and a great way to have fun while you're teaching your kids about money and entrepreneurship. How not to be a wage slave. Yeah. So it's highly, highly recommended. Like I said, kids, my son started playing when he was 4 years old and still loves it.
I love it. So fun.
Yeah.
So I think, what's the next thing we're talking about? I was going to say something, but I think it's in the next.
No, that's fine. Setting money goals. So that's number 2. Number 1 is teaching them the value of the money. Number 2 is setting money goals.
So setting money goals. My almost 11-year-old, he is all about baseball, right? He lives in baseball. And he's been designing a glove for like a year and a half online. And it's going to be like $250. And he has been saving up, and it's been the most fun for me to see him like go, okay, how can I earn $1, right? How can I do this? Because I want to save up because I'm going to buy this, right? And he's been dreaming about it. He takes screenshots of it and saves it on his phone, his iPad. And I'm like, he's got like his own little vision board here, and I just think it's so fun.
Well, that goes back to what you were talking about earlier too. I mean, he's got those money goals, so he's working to earn it. He's not just looking at mom going, "Hey, mom, you make great money. Just go ahead and buy this for me, right? If you love me, you do this." But so many parents cave to that. They feel like, okay, I'm working too much. I don't see him enough, or I want them to like me. I've seen that too. They'll just buy the kid stuff, and you're doing more damage than good. But yeah, setting those money goals and looking at, okay, the work versus reward, right? Or the work and reward. I mean, he's working to build that money up. And we talk about, going back to where you're talking about the African dollar or whatever, here's how much it would cost. And I look at things, if you got people out there working $20 for an hour, right? They make $20 in an hour, that's pre-tax, right? And so I'll look at stuff and go, okay, well, how many hours, if I was making $20, how many hours would I have to pay for that? Work to pay for that. And so all of a sudden it's like, whoa, man. And, that's the average salary out there is like $54,000 in the United States. So, I mean, we're not talking huge sums, but you don't also want to just go out and blow all that money. But when you work for it, all of a sudden it becomes a lot more real. And here's the other side of that. He'll take so much more care of that glove because he had to work to get it, and he'll appreciate it that much more. At least that's what I've noticed with my kids when they do that stuff too.
Adults, right? Like, I just had this conversation. I'm at an event in Atlanta with a whole bunch of business coaches, but we just had a conversation about investing in ourselves, right? When people pay a small investment, they're not as invested with their time.
No.
But somebody pays 5-10 grand for coaching, 20 grand, then they're way more invested in getting right. And that's the same with our kids. If it doesn't hurt to pay for it, right, then they're not as appreciated as much.
Yeah. So. Well, and it's the same thing with a lot of things. It's that perceived value, right? I mean, you look at what I do, and I had to invest in my business to get it up and running. And I think I spent a total of $300. Okay. And I was like, and that's a challenge with some people, because I looked at other agencies out there on the insurance side, and, with a farm in their name, that's all I'm going to say. And it was $100 grand. $100,000 investment. And it's like, okay, well, that must mean it's so much more valuable. And that's not the case. But, that's one of the things that if you work for that money and you end up investing it the right way, in finding that true value, you're going to end up taking care of it and probably prospering more too. But, that's one of the things is making sure you're setting goals for your kids just like that. Okay, especially if they want a big item. Okay, what can we do to get there? And making sure all along the way you're teaching about save, save, save for the rainy day, right? 20%, 20%, 20%. And teach your kids how to stack cash and be impressed with how much they have. And we turn it into a little competition with the kids on who has more in their savings account. And, I think as far as kids go, girls have an advantage over guys because they can do the babysitting thing and all that other stuff. And guys are out there mowing yards during the summer. I mean, it's kind of a finite, you can rake leaves or whatever the case may be. But my daughter, she's a money maker. I mean, she is an entrepreneur through and through, and she's not afraid to kind of point it out to her brothers either, which is great.
So I shared this on my story the other day, but just a creative way for kids to earn. My 19-year-old, he is all into shoes right now. So he trades shoes. He'll find deals on shoes and then turn around and resell. But he's doing something right now. I'm like, that's so stinking smart. And you could do this with so many things, and younger kids could do this with smaller price items. But he finds BOGO sales. So
there you go.
Get one half off, and then he sells the half off one for full price on eBay or Amazon or whatever, or Facebook Marketplace. And I think that's so smart. And that's such an easy thing so I was talking to my 11-year-old about that. I'm like, what can we go to the store, find a BOGO, right? And then just pop on Facebook Marketplace, turn around and sell it, not for full price, but you can mark it up from what you bought it for.
Oh yeah, there's definitely some margin in there. And that's the thing, you probably just had made some light bulbs go off in adult's head out there going, why did I think of that? I mean, but that's the great thing. I mean, kids today have so many more opportunities to make money legitimately, right? And that's the thing that it's like, okay, again, that's that entrepreneur mindset. Going back to the cash flow game, you teach them young, and I'm sure that they pick that up being around you, mom, the entrepreneur, right? But that's the thing you want to instill in your children, so they don't ever have to go through those challenges and be dependent on somebody else for a paycheck, not knowing how they're going to make it to the next paycheck, and kind of having that paralysis of not knowing what to do. Teach them about money, teach them what's out there, and all of a sudden it's an endless stream. You're not quite a money tree that we were talking about earlier, but you can literally go out and create additional funds. Just one more thing on talking about the goals of money. Make sure you teach them the concept called the rule of 72. Okay. This is all about growing money. And at that young age, I mean, I've talked to every client. I usually ask every client this question. If you could go back and talk to 20-year-old Wendy about saving money, what would you tell her? Oh my gosh, start, save, save, save. Yeah, save a lot more, right? Because here's the thing. You can be younger and put away such a small amount of money and still hit that, millionaire status, later in life. Whereas if you wait till you're 30 or 40 and really start getting serious about it, you've lost so much time. And that's what that rule of 72 talks about. So the rule of 72 is simple. All you do is you take any rate of return you're getting on a bank account, 401k, whatever, right? Divide 72 by that number. Okay. So if I was getting, 10% rate of return, 72 divided by 7.2 years, the money in there would double. So it tells you about how fast that money's going to double. It's a compounding effect. Well, you've got so much more time when you're younger, and time is way more valuable than money, right? And you can always add more money, but you can't add more time. Yep. So make sure that that's part of that lesson too. So number one, teach them the value of the money. Number two is talk about the goals of money. And number three is teach them how to manage that money. What to do with it. Again, I talked to a client yesterday, an adult keeping their money in a shoebox under the bed. And I was amazed. I'm like, okay, what happens if there's a fire? Oh, yeah, I hadn't really thought of that. I mean, so that's not what you do. But, talk to them about ways to save it. And, one of the things that you and I were talking about earlier, there's, you can buy piggy banks. And there's so much more advanced now where if you've got cash or whatever the case may be, you can actually divide it. Okay, this is for my savings, 20%. This is for my tithing if you're tithing. And this is for my actual money that I can use.
So I want to pause really quick because I think one really important thing is to teach our kids to give.
Yeah.
Like when they can give and of other people and other needs and be able to give to that first, I think it can totally change, even as adults. I was listening to, shout out to Jessica Higdon at an event I was at, and she said she really had a messed up money mindset, and she was this big money coach, right? And she's like, I need you to fix, what's in my brain. And he goes, you need to give more. And she's like, what? And he's like, you need to give more. That's going to fix your problems. Your money mindset will be, issues will be gone when you start giving more. And because she had a control thing with the money, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's such an important lesson to teach our kids in the very beginning.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, that is true. I mean, it's one of those things. If you look at, I call it the scarcity mindset. I don't want to do that. And if you don't go to church, that's fine. There are plenty of good causes out there. Homeless shelters, things like that, veterans organizations and whatnot that you can donate your money to, and most of them are 501(c)(3)s, right? And that's what our 501(c)(3). Yeah, there you go. That you can, tax deductible is
Right.
where I'm going with that, right? So you can actually benefit from it that way, but it does so much better. And what happens is you shift from that scarcity mindset. And I always think of the Lord of the Rings, right? That little Gollum guy with the precious, right? This little hanging out in a damp cave somewhere. And that's where you are inside your head when you think of money in that scarcity mindset. I mean, it's a tool. That's all it is. And, you want to get your money straight, get your money right, so to speak. But make sure you're being generous to others and giving, because what it does, it takes you from that scarcity mindset to a mindset of plenty. And all of a sudden it takes the pressure off. You start seeing that, oh my gosh, it's everywhere. And you give up on that control. And it's not you're giving up the control. You're actually becoming more in control because you're not letting it control you.
Yeah. I feel like preaching up in here, Johnson.
I'm just saying, I mean, because I've gone through these struggles. I used to be that guy. I used to be, so freaked out about money. I was a poor kid growing up. It's like you get a shekel and you're like, squeezing it until blood comes out of your hand. And it's like, no, that becomes, you start, coveting that, right? And it starts controlling you as opposed to you controlling the money. Yeah. And, that's one of those things that, it's by teaching them that and really how to managing it and telling it what to do. Could you imagine raising kids? You have 7 of them. Could you imagine having a house with 7 children in it, not telling them anything to do, just letting them figure it out on their own? I mean, right? I mean, it'd be Lord of the Flies, right?
I wouldn't be here.
Well, exactly. So with that, your money's the same way, people. You've got to tell your money what to do. And it comes to a budgeting. Now, you're not going to sit down with mint.com and with your 5-year-old and go through that. But you want to explain, hey, we're going to put a little money towards savings. We're going to put a little money towards tithing and charity, right? And we're going to put a little money back and save for those financial goals you have. Now, if you want to teach them about taxes too, I always laugh at that. I've seen a meme where dad's eating about half the kid's ice cream and says, okay, that's what taxation is. And the kid just looking at him like, what the heck? But it's one of those that, you teach them about this stuff and they become better adults because of it, because they've already got the basic foundations, right? The one big thing I want to teach, and this is something about kids. And I had a gentleman by the name of Greg Kapp teach me this 8 years ago. And, it wasn't that I was not pushing my kids to excel and things like that, but he taught me about pouring greatness into your children. And so many times, we were raised that we're told no and things like that, and get a little more off the money and more into the kids, but teaching them that they are going to do great things in life and giving them the teaching and the tools to be able to achieve that. Constantly reminding their kids that, hey, you're going to do great in life no matter what you do. And I always told my kids, I don't care what career you pick, just be good at it. Right. And make sure it's something you're passionate about and be good at it, but make sure you're pouring greatness into it. And that includes the money side. Okay. Hey, you're going to be awesome at money. You're going to be able to, go out and earn a living. I'm going to teach you how to be an entrepreneur. You would never put all your assets in one stock, right? You would never put all your money in one stock. So why are you putting all your income into one job, multiple streams of income, right? Just teaching them about that stuff. And so that's where it's exciting when you can get their kids at such a young age, or get your kids at a young age and start pouring into that stuff. But the number one rule on that, pay yourself first.
Yeah.
Pay yourself first, right? Because that's something where you're more important than anybody else in your life, Wendy. And I'm not talking kids and stuff like that, but I mean your family, right? So you want to make sure you're setting that money back for you first in that future, Wendy, and teach your kids to do the same thing.
Yep.
and then live on what's the rest of it, right? So anything to add on that? I kind of went on a tangent there.
That was, you crushed it.
Yeah, I don't know about that. These are hard lessons, folks. I'm not telling you. I told my first, I've told him a couple times. He's 21 now, and I've gone up to him, I'm like, hey man, I just want to say I'm sorry for not being the perfect dad. You were kind of the learning kid.
I know. So I'm the same way. So my older ones, I'm like, sorry guys.
Yeah.
They're like,
yeah, it's
when you raised us, Mom. I was 21 when I had my first one. And so, and also I want to say to the parents out there that aren't doing these things with their kids, like, it's okay, start now.
yeah.
And even my older ones, like I made a lot of mistakes, and now they're young adults and learning, but it's not too late. I mean, I'm starting to pour those things into them in the last couple of years, and I'm seeing the changes in them, and I'm seeing, like, my son with the shoes, like, I'm so proud of him for that. He actually now trades cars and flips cars too, which is pretty cool. But I love that. I think it's so important to teach our kids to be creative.
Yeah, extremely
resourceful.
Well, and that's the thing again. So they're not dependent on, I've got to wait for my paycheck from somebody else. No, I'm going to go buy a car and flip it, or buy some shoes and flip them, or whatever the case may be, or, go create something. We talked about that in the past with entrepreneurship and stuff. And that's going to create so much more freedom for your kids, and it'll make sure that they don't come back and move in your basement when they're 40. So it's one of those things that there's a benefit in it for you as a parent as well. Plus, you want your kids to do well, and it's a constant thing, but it can be fun too. And like Wendy said, don't beat yourself up. If you haven't done any of these things, but it needs to be done, don't beat yourself up. Start today. Make today the change, right? And there are a lot of great tools out there. We talked about the games, even Monopoly and Life. And don't just focus on the winning, focus on the lessons throughout the game. Cash Flow is a great game. I'm going to post a link in the comments section about some books and things like that are geared towards kids of different age that you can read with them. Don't just hand it to them and read them, but read the books with them and actually talk about that stuff with them so they can kind of understand it. There's a great one for teenagers too. I'm a huge Robert Kiyosaki fan. I don't think anybody's unaware of that. He wrote that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read that, and that changed my life from a mental money mindset, right? Yeah. He wrote one called Rich Dad for Teens. And here's what I did with my kids. I got the book, and it's a super thin book. I put a $20 bill in it for a bookmark. And I said, okay, I'm going to ask you 3 questions at the end of this. And if you can answer those 3 questions at the end of this, you get to keep the $20.
I love it. You're so smart, John Cleaver.
I'm just creative. I'm creative, right? But what it does is they're money motivated. Kids are money motivated, right? Yeah. And so I wanted them to get the lessons out of it, and they got to keep the $20. And for me to spend $20 to have them absorb that information was so worth it. It was, you talk about investing in yourself. I'm investing in my kids too by taking the time to teach this stuff. Because I'm here to tell you, folks, don't lie to yourself. You did not get taught about money in school, period. Do not lie to yourself and think that your kids are just going to figure it out. Okay. They may or they may not, but odds are against them. You need to get involved at a young age. And it's easy to do. There's a ton of resources out there. We're going to post some later when this video's up. Go out and get those books, read them. Sit down and have a conversation with us. Well, if you need your help on your own stuff too, I don't want to teach my kids. I don't even know what the hell's going on. Watch our videos, like and subscribe, right? Share them with friends. That's what this whole channel is all about, is teaching you how money works. So, Wendy, on closing, anything else to add on that?
Nope. I love it. Just,
Mic drop.
Yeah, it was good. I think lots of value in this one for sure.
Well, good stuff. So make sure you're reaching out and teaching your kids about money. Don't let them try to figure it out. You know the pain that you went through. Don't force that on your kids. Okay. Do something about it. Change your family tree forever just by learning a few concepts. So everybody, want to say thanks. We're here every Tuesday. If you've got an idea or two that you'd like to learn about, please reach out to us and let us know. Give us some topics that you want to hear about. This channel is not for us. It's for you. If you need help with your finances, reach out to Wendy, reach out to me, and follow us on Instagram and all the other social media stuff. I guarantee you're going to learn a lot more about money than you did before you met us. Everybody have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.